and welcome back to my channel. I am Nadine and I'm here today to show you how what the difference is between these two yarns and how you read the labels that are on the yarn balls when you purchase them. So you may have seen them and be like, I don't know what any of that means. So I wanted to kind of take the guesswork out of that and show you step by step what these mean, and also kind of talk a little bit about like the thickness of the yarn and also why that matters, what kind of patterns are, better for which thickness, and then give you some examples of, what you can make with each of these. But let's just quickly go over what you can actually find on the yarn and why it's important to know what it says on there so that you can then pick the yarn, that is best for the pattern that you're trying to make. So for me personally, I love knitting kits, meaning that you will get the pattern, you will get the yarn, and sometimes you're even able to get the needles that are correspondent to the yarn in just one purchase, and it's all, made to work together. For me, I wasn't a beginner when I started knitting again in 2020, but I definitely was also not very advanced. So I had to kind of relearn a lot of things. And it was very helpful to me to have everything just packaged up and ready to go. So I didn't have to, pick and choose things and maybe go with the wrong yarn or not having the right needle and things like that. So I do highly recommend, if you are a total beginner, to go for just a knitting kit. You can buy these at Lion Brand. This is one of my favorite places to buy them. I also really love the We Are Knitters uh, knitting kits. Those are really gorgeous as well. I have purchased multiple ones of those. I have links for both of those where you can get coupon codes and you can save some money when you purchase your knitting kits. But if you are, for example, wanting a certain pattern and it doesn't come in a knitting kit, it's totally possible. Lion Brand has most of their stuff in kits, but you might come across a pattern on Etsy that you really like, or maybe a friend has given you one and you just like, I don't know what yarn to use. So this is when knowing what the yarn label says really, really is important, because you're going to need to know what needle size you need, if that's actually part of the pattern, or if it's okay to use in the pattern that you're looking at. And if you have a thicker yarn or a thinner yarn than the pattern suggests, then what are you going to do and how are you going to know if it's still going to work for your pattern? So I say, let's talk about these labels and look at them a little bit closer up, and then I can give you some more tips as we go. All right, let me walk you through what these labels look like on your yarn. So you can see I have a couple different yarns here, different brands, different thicknesses, so that I can show you the differences. Okay, so here we have this yarn called Wool Ease Thick and Quick. This is from Lion Brand. It's one of my favorites. Works up really quickly, and it comes in a lot of amazing colorways. So the next one I have here is called Color Theory. This is also from Lion Brand, and it's from one of my favorite designers. And then the third one I have is called the Petite Wool, and this is from We Are Knitters. These guys are in Europe, so it might look slightly different, but you'll still make sense of it. Okay, so when you turn this over, you are first going to come across your weight and then the length of the yarn that you have right here. So it's going to give you the weight in ounces and also in grams. So it really is important to have both, because some patterns, call for ounces and others call for grams. A lot of patterns will give you the total amount of yarn, either in grams or in meters or both, that you are going to need. So again, if you are not purchasing a kit where it's all done for you, you are going to have to look for the length of yarn that you're going to need, so that you can make sure that you have enough of the same yarn. And we're going to get to why that's important later on. So here you have 87 yards and then 80 meters. Let's go and compare that with this one really quick so that you can see the difference. So you can also see that the actual skein is smaller. Obviously this is a thicker yarn, so there you go. And that's why, because if you really look at it, this one is a little bit lighter, which makes sense because this is a bulky yarn.
But here, look at how long this one is. This is 246 yards or 225 meters. This one is only 87 and 80 meters. So this one is a lot longer and you'll go a lot further with this, but obviously it's a less thick yarn. So your garment will not be as thick, but it will give you an idea of how much you're going to need. And again, just check the pattern and look inside your pattern and see what is required to make the pattern. The next thing you're going to see is what the yarn is actually made of. So this one is 100% acrylic. It is super soft. I really love this yarn a lot, but there's no wool in it, which is important for people with a wool allergy like me. Mine is not crazy. I don't like sneeze or anything, but I do get a little bit of a rash on my skin when I wear wool for too long. What I can do, however, is like a mix of wool and acrylic, which is what this is. So here you can see it's 80% acrylic and it's 20% wool. So this one I can deal with very well. What I have found, sadly, is that this yarn, which I love, 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 I've made multiple things with this, is not ideal for me because I can only wear it for a couple hours. But if you're looking at the colorway, it's really gorgeous. So if you can handle wool, I really love this wool. I would highly recommend you trying it out. And there's very many amazing patterns on We Are Knitters that you can check out. Again, there's a coupon in the bottom right here in the description that will give you I think it's $12 off of your first order. This one is 100% wool and you can see that right there. So again, lovely yarn, but it's important to know what it's made of just in case you have an allergy. Okay, moving on. The next thing you're going to see, and it depends on the label, but on this one, the next one is actually the care and the instructions for care for this yarn. And because it's made of acrylic, it is really easy to care for. So you can machine wash it and you can even dry it. It says no iron. I've shown you before the way I kind of straighten out my seams, and I do use an iron, but I never touch the yarn really. I just kind of hover over it so that the steam can do its work, but it's not ironing the fabric. But yes, you can put it on low in the dryer and you can also machine wash it on cold, which is so very convenient. Another reason why I love this yarn. The same goes for this one, which is really cool. So machine washable and dryable. And then you even have the temperature on this one. This is your dryer symbol. And then again, no ironing right here. It also tells you where the yarn was made. I think it's the same on this one. Yep, this one right here. And then we come to the really interesting part about the label, which is the size of needle that you need and the actual classification of the thickness of the yarn. So we have here a number 4. This is a medium or worsted yarn right here. So you can see the number 4 on multiple different types of yarns, and they are roughly the same thickness, which is really neat to know because sometimes it's just hard to tell how it's going to knit up unless you actually have tried it. So just using this as a gauge is really helpful. This one, on the other hand, is it's called super bulky, and this is a number 6. So as you can see, there's got to be another one in between these. That's number 5, and that would be a bulky yarn. That's what this one would fall into, this category right here, but it isn't on the label. I couldn't find it anyway, and I do believe that has to do with the fact that this one is shipped from Europe, so it may be a little bit different, which is so funny because I am European and I have no idea why it's not on here. So little side note, but this is definitely the size right in between these. It's like a medium bulky yarn, or just bulky. This one is super bulky, and We Are Knitters actually does also have a version of that yarn that is super bulky. I'm trying to see if I have one here. It doesn't have a label, but it'll look like this. So you can tell this is roughly the same thickness as this one right here, right? And just definitely thicker than this one. So that's the difference right there. And then let's talk about the needle size, because that's the next thing that you're going to see on here. So right here, it will tell you what needle to use. In the US, there's a 7, US size 7, 4.5 millimeters, and you will see that on your needles, depending on what needles you have. This one, it might be a little hard to see on the Addi needles. It's usually on the cable, but this one may have rubbed off a bit. but you are able to check the size of your needles by buying just a simple needle size check thingy. I don't even know what that's called. And I don't have it to show you here, which is such a shame. I wish I did. I will show you that in another video, but you just basically have a card that has a bunch of little holes in it, and you just push the needle through, and then you'll see what size it is. It's super easy, super handy. It's like $3 on Amazon, and it's very helpful. But again, normally the needle will actually say the size on here, and of course I have one right here that doesn't do that right now. So sorry about that. You will also see what kind of crochet hook you're going to need. So this one will need an I9, which is 5.5 millimeters, in case you want to use a crochet hook, but that's super helpful as well. And then here we have, for the super bulky yarn, you have a size, US size 13, which is 9 millimeters. And again, you have your crochet hook of here. This is N13. Crochet hook names are a bit wonky in my head, but it's a 9 millimeter. So obviously bigger needle for bigger yarn, as you can see. You will see the same thing here. And right there you have the knitting needle. It's an 8 millimeter, which is a US 11. And again, as you can see, that would be right in between, right? We have a 11, and then the small one has a 7, and then this one has a 13. So bigger yarn, bigger needle, makes complete sense. What's also really cool is obviously if you are a beginner knitter, you do want to opt for the super bulky yarn, because with the thicker needles and the bulky yarn, you're going to knit up something so fast, you're going to be amazed. If it's something a little thinner like this one, it might take you a little longer. It's still amazing and awesome. But if you want to have a very quick, you know, experience with some accomplishment that you can wear very fast, I would highly recommend one of these. One last thing that we are going to discuss is the color and the yarn dye lot. Okay, what the heck does that mean? Okay, so on the back over here you can see the color. They called this one marble. Makes complete sense why that would be called marble, right? And then there's also a color code or number, right? So this is important if you want to find the same kind of yarn again because you really enjoyed it. That's how you're going to know which color that was. And then also, and this is very important when you are having a bigger project and you need multiple yarn balls, the lot number, right? So this is the lot number for this particular dyed yarn. Why is this important? Well, because each lot can be slightly different. So when you just look at them from far away, this may not be a big difference, and it really is, they're trying to get them as close as possible to each other. However, it might be slightly different, and if you are having a project that requires multiple yarn balls and you get them from different yarn or dye lots, there is a chance that the variation in color is significant, and you are able to tell once you're finished project is done and you have different color variations in there. You want to avoid that, and you want to make sure that whatever you use for the same project has the same lot number right here on the back, which is why they always put this on here. Right here, this is the color Dijon. This is the color code, I guess, the color number. And right here you have the lot number, and it's even have a stamp on it so that you can compare all the colors from that you want to use for that same lot. Just make sure that you have gotten the colors from the same lot, just to avoid any, you know, wonkiness in the colors that you end up having in your project.
All right, hopefully that was helpful to you, for you to now understand why reading your yarn labels is very important and how they can help you figure out which yarn to use, what needle to use, and you know, how to care for your garment once you're done and once it's ready to wear. Next week, we're going to talk about something called gauge, where we actually are, I'm going to explain to you why you need to gauge before you start your project, and how the yarn size and the needle size and reading the labels is playing into gauging for your project. So be sure to tune into that one to learn some more. And in the meantime, subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any future videos. I enjoy making these videos for you. I hope you guys are getting a lot of value out of this, and I wish you all the best for your knitting journey. Please be sure to join our free Facebook community, The Casual Knitters. I would love to have you in there to support you further. You can ask any question in there, and I'm going to make sure I show up and help you wherever I can. I will talk to you next week. Thank you so much for watching.